Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Today's guest, he is a digital nomad. He travels full time and he's a financial coach. I'm really excited to be talking today to Jack McColl. Jack, are you ready to rock?
Yes, Tim. Good morning. Absolutely ready to rock. Let's go.
Perfect. Okay, so we like to start on a good note. So tell me a story about success in your life or your business.
Yeah, one success highlight that I love to talk about, one of the coolest things I've done in my life. A few years ago, I built a travel company with my brother, Ted. And basically in this travel company, we organized Cabo spring break trips for university students. So quite the fun venture. It was extremely hard. Money was tight. It took a couple years to really gain some traction, but we really enjoyed doing it, just putting our head down and, building something that was ours. It took us a few years to reach the level where we finally got acquired by the industry leader in student travel. But it was really hard along the way. And I think a couple of the big things that really helped us create enough momentum to get to an acquisition level where we sold for a six-figure deal. It was the ability to borrow large amounts of money to invest into the business. And so what we did, we got a $50,000 loan, for example, put that into hotel inventory and hoping we were going to sell it. Right after we invested that money, there was actually a travel warning to Mexico. So it made it super, super hard to sell the rooms. But, we grinded super hard in a garage and we sold the rooms, and we took enough market share to finally become attractive to the industry leader. So that was like kind of the first big success, actually building something from the ground up and selling it. And I was doing it with my brother. So that was quite the good feeling.
Yeah. It also could be a little bit challenging though, couldn't it?
It was the hardest thing ever, but the most rewarding thing ever as well. Like, going on these, university spring break trips was an awesome time, of course, but, no one really sees the back office stuff, grinding from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. in a cold garage. But it's all part of it, and it's really fun. And I think so much more often you perform better when you apply the pressure. When you really, really make it hard on yourself, that's when you're going to do the best.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, having cutting I don't know, what is it, burning the bridges, I guess, or
Burning
burning the
the boats.
boats.
Yes, yeah, it's the bridges, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I totally agree 100%. As soon as you have no other option. Now that doesn't necessarily mean quit everything you're doing right now and just start something from scratch. I wouldn't necessarily think that that's a recommended path, but having a little bit of pressure underneath you definitely gets you moving, right?
Agreed. And there's no right time to start a business. If you're going to start a business, you got to start it today. It is better if you have a financial cushion, not necessary, but if you want to start something, you have to start it basically immediately. At least take small steps and take small steps towards that goal every day on a consistent basis. There's not, let me start this next year. I'll start it, in a few weeks. It's just not going to get done that way. So you got to start now, take small steps, and be consistent with those steps literally every single day.
Yeah. And I find that no matter what that looks like to you, whether it be keep your job, put in 15, 20 minutes per day, or whether that means, burning the candle at both ends and staying up all night, whatever makes sense to you is the right way to do it. I mean, there's no real blueprint. It's just a matter of getting out and getting it started. And like you said, now is the best time. How many times have I talked to somebody who has a successful business, and one of the regrets they have is, I wish I had started 5 years earlier or 10 years earlier. Wish I'd started
100%.
earlier.
And you can't be scared to fail, because every time you fail, you're getting a step closer to success. Everyone goes into business, then they have their first strikeout. It's like, damn, I'm not cut for business. But every successful person runs through those failures. The only reason they're successful is because they have failed more. And so, go out there, fail hard, fail fast, learn from those mistakes, and just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that success and failure are opposites, but I don't think they are. I think they're part of the same.
Exactly.
Maybe the opposite of success might be not doing it at all. I don't know. But what would be the opposite of success?
Yeah, real failure for me is to work a 9-to-5 job that I don't enjoy for my entire life. That is miserable, in my opinion, for myself. So, I'm comfortable to go out there in business and fail, get embarrassed, get made fun of trying new things, but I'll learn from those failures. And because I failed, now I'm stronger. I'm going to go back at it again with a different angle and be successful because I failed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, totally agree. So then, speaking of that, the next thing I normally talk about is the bad note, because we all hit bad notes from time to time. And so what would be a big failure that you experienced, and what did you learn from that?
Yeah. I mean, one of the ventures that was a total bust, my brother and I, so after our travel company got acquired by the industry leader, we actually worked for that company for about a year. We learned a lot. It was a very, very fast growing company, really cool to be a part of. But once we got to the point where we weren't learning as much, that was our cue to, move on to a different venture. From there, we moved to Bali, Indonesia, and we started a short-term rental business. So we would rent villas for a year long and then post them on Airbnb and rent them out on short term, and then hire a local team of people to kind of run the daily operations of the business, the cleanings, the communication with the customers, things like that. And it was going great. We were on track to triple our investment after the first couple months. It was all going super, super well and fairly automated too. We kind of, trained a team of people to run this business for us. There was some bumps in the road. It's doing business internationally is not the same as doing business in the US. I think we took that for granted. And there's just different people work differently, a lot is different. So that was a hard thing. We kind of got through it, but what really just wiped us clean was the pandemic. I mean, this was from December 2019 to March 2020, right? So if pandemic goes down, no one can travel to Bali, no one can stay in our villas, right? So now we have these villas that we're paying for the full year, and no one can stay there. So we lost big on that, but I think the takeaway is to one, do business home, unless you're super confident you can do it elsewhere and have the right relationships and things set up in place. But I really appreciate doing business in the States just based on the resources that we have, the credit system that we have, and just working with other people in the same continent and the country specifically.
Yeah, like I think the internet opens up a lot of other opportunities, because we are, one world. We can communicate across the globe now. However, I think that this whole pandemic has definitely changed the landscape quite a bit. And now more than ever, number one, get a home business, right? Because this is something that you will be able to do even when we go through lockdowns and all that stuff. You can still work from home. And then the second is, like focus more on local, because it's just, you never know what's going to happen on the other side of the world. And, policies are changing so quickly, and, how can you really keep up on that, unless, like you said, unless you have some really strong connections over there. And then
Exactly.
that doesn't really count, because now they're working from home and
Right. But yeah, good point. Find a business where you can work from home. And I mean, I've traveled the majority of these last 5 years. I've only had one year lease in the last 4 to 5 years. Aside from that, just kind of bouncing around from different places, Airbnbs, hotels. I'm really big into travel hacking, so I have awesome strategies on how to bring the cost down on hotels. I'm really big on credit cards. I have about 16 credit cards, and I'm really good with points redemption, point accumulation, and point redemption. So I kind of use these travel hacks into bringing my cost down for travel. And my most important asset that physical asset is this laptop that I'm doing this interview on right now, because I do all my work on it. It's this laptop and my iPhone and this camera that I'm streaming off of as well, because I create content with it and connect people with this, these communication devices. So you have some great advice there. Find a business that you can do from home.
Yeah, it's funny because when I initially started working from home, it's been more than a decade now. But like I just thought, my first business was doing tech support for small companies. I would go in there and fix computers and stuff. And I remember thinking, this is ridiculous. I can't do this from a beach. Like, how can I figure out a way where I can just work from a laptop or work remotely? And it turned out that it was something that worked out long term, because now there's more and more people that are starting to come and start these online businesses and these work from home businesses. And I think it's cool because it does cut out a lot of overhead and all that other business. And like you said, you can travel all over the place and still, earn a decent income, which is something that would be unheard of 20 years ago. Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think one key to doing that is, outsourcing the right things, whether
Mm.
it be the video editing, whether it be hiring a virtual assistant from the Philippines to do messaging, to do, photo editing, graphics, like whatever, think about all those things in your business and think about, what can you delegate to someone else so you can focus on growing the business, not, working in the business. The more you're working in the business, you're not focusing on growth, right? So try to think about how do you outsource all these tasks that are, that you can train someone else to do so you can focus on the higher level stuff so you can actually grow the business and bring in, more revenue, and so you can impact more people ultimately.
Yeah, and that brings up a huge point because have noticed that a lot of people will say, I wish I delegated sooner. I wish I'd started doing that earlier. And so, when would you say would be the right time to start delegating?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I think first of all, you have to do the task and you have to learn how to do it, and then put together a system, like an SOP, standard operating procedure, so you can then train someone else. So, for example, in my business, my financial consulting business, I have a lot of people that come into my direct message on Instagram through my ads, and I'll have a virtual assistant send the first message to kind of inform them on what I do, send them to my landing page, and then she'll follow up with the second question. And then after the second question, I take over the communication, right? And then so I'm actually about to outsource this next part to someone else that I'm going to train on the messaging. So I'm going to do it first though. So I'm going to see what people are saying to these questions that the virtual assistant is sending, and then I'm going to create all these canned answers. And then so when I train someone, they're going to have everything they need because I've already gone through it. I'm kind of understanding of what's coming in, letting them know, how to act in these situations. So you have to do it first, and then put together a very, very detailed SOP so you can then train someone else. But if you plug someone in before you actually doing it, there's probably going to be a big disconnect. So do it first, and then note down every single detail of how you're doing that job, and then so you can train someone else. And when you train someone else, do that job in front of them, and then have them do it, and then watch them do it for 30 minutes, and then give them some notes back and forth. That's my advice.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. That's really good. And I mean, one of the things that I noticed there is that you've delegated a part of a job, which is which is important to note because sometimes the whole job you can't delegate it, but you can delegate a little part of it. So I like that idea where you can say, okay, it's just this little portion of this. Let's delegate that part and then hand it off to me, and then I'll be able to handle the rest from there.
Exactly. It's like if I don't do that, I'm going to be spending 2 hours a night catching up on messages out of the hundreds of DMs that I'm getting. And I'm trying to convert these conversations into calls. And so it's super, super important. And like most of my calls come from my direct message after the virtual assistant sending these messages. So it's a crucial key. And those 2 hours, though, I need to spend on, higher level stuff. So I did it first. I have the SOP. Now I'm about to train someone else to fill in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think probably one of the ways that I think about it is that there's some of the work that I do that I call it's kind of mindless work. It's just like, oh, I just got to do this part, some sort of production part of, even producing this podcast. There's a part of it that is just anybody can do it. It's just annoying and you have to do it. However, that is probably a really good thing to delegate because it's something that you probably really can put a SOP together and say, okay, this is exactly what I do. This is how I do it. This is why it's mindless. Boom, pass that on to somebody else, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Anything that's trainable, train someone else and focus on the high level stuff.
Awesome. So, we rock, when you get to the point where you're, on stages and selling out stadiums, that's great. However, everybody who's in music has probably started off with a hat. Gotta start off filling that hat and figuring out ways to generate cash flow into your business. So tell me, what would be some ways to generate cash flow in your business, I guess, or that you can share with other people?
Yeah, I mean, having the cash to start or scale a business is incredibly important. And I think when you finance a business, whatever your project may be, there's a couple different ways. So there's one, use your personal savings, right? It's personal savings that you've built up. You use that to start the business. I don't think that's the best option, and I'll get to why. The second option is to bring on an equity partner. It kind of depends on the business. Maybe it's like a marketing company. If it's a product, maybe you'll bring a equity partner on, give them equity, they bring on the investment for the company. Maybe it's like a music tour, you're bringing someone on, they're bringing the money, you give them percentage of whatever. The third way is to do like a business loan or a personal loan. That's obviously pretty high interest, like 10+% interest. The fourth way, which is my favorite, is to start or scale businesses with 0% interest business credit cards. So basically you can borrow actually hundreds of thousands of dollars on 0% interest business credit cards, if you have good personal credit, which is good personal credit is not hard to get if you know the right things to do. And I'm going to give you guys tons of free tips on how to benefit your credit. So basically on business cards, there's a 0% introductory period on most cards. So this is basically saying you can use the money that's being lent to you for X amount of time with no interest. Some cards are 6%, 6 months. Other cards are 18 months. So that's 18 months of free money. So say you get a $50,000 0% card, you can use $50,000 for free for that 6 to 18 months, and get your business to take off in that time frame. So I'm a big fan of putting personal savings into long-term investments like real estate, like stock market, cryptocurrency, because those are long-term investments. Where for short-term investments like your business, like your music tour, like whatever it is you're working on, use 0% interest business credit, things that you can make an ROI in within that introductory period. So usually it's like less than a year, right? And what really changes everything with business credit is the fact that business credit doesn't report to your personal credit. And so what this means exactly is you can actually use the money that's being lent to you without it negatively affecting your personal credit. So let me give you an example, Tim. So if you had a $20,000 personal card and you're using all of that money, using that $20,000 for whatever, it's going to be 100% utilization, and it's going to bring your credit score down dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had a $20,000 card on the business side, you can use that full $20,000. And because it doesn't report the account to your personal credit, it won't affect your credit score whatsoever. And so just in the last 12 months, basically, I've been approved for over $300,000 in credit. And basically now I can use this money to invest into my businesses, and I'm maintaining an 805 FICO score across all three bureaus because mainly this is business credit and it doesn't affect my personal credit.
Oh, wow. Okay. So do you need a business, registered business for this, or a corporation to do this?
So you do need an entity, whether it be an LLC, S corp, C corp. You do
Okay.
need that's first step. And then basically, the next step after that is to work on your personal credit. So some free advice I would give to anyone, open up a personal credit card every 2 to 3 months. Don't go faster than that because then you look risky to a lender. But you're going to want to build your credit file to where it's very thick and strong. So you're going to want as high limits as possible, as many accounts as possible. Never close a credit card account and never close a bank account, because having that age and that history on that personal credit card and that bank account really, really helps you. So say you have like a credit card for 10 years and you close it, you're just deleting 10 years of history from your credit file, which it just hurts you. So open accounts, keep them open. Prior to applying for cards, make sure your utilization is under 30%. So this just means the amount of debt that you're using out of the debt that's lent to you. So say if you're lent 10K, you're using 3K, that's 30% utilization. You want to keep that under 30% on every single account before applying for new accounts.
Okay.
And then you want to make sure, another value nugget here is, you don't want to apply for cards if you have more than 2 hard inquiries on each bureau in the last 6 months. So hard inquiries, you'll get a hard inquiry every time you apply for a credit card, every time someone checks your credit. And if you have too many, you look risky to the banks. So if you have two or less on each of the bureaus, you're good to go. But if you have six in the last 6 months, you're going to get denied.
Yeah, and you can check your own credit, right?
Yes. So there's a couple of free ways you can check your credit. The free ways aren't the most accurate. They're close, but they're not always exact. So you can check for free on creditkarma.com or Experian.com.
Hmm.
And out of those two sites, you can see all three bureaus. There's three bureaus you need to check. But if you want to pay for a service, I recommend it, like myfico.com. That actually gets your FICO score. So that's the score that the banks look at, and it's the most accurate.
Okay. Yeah. And I think a lot of banks now, I'm in Canada. I know my bank actually offers credit checks. I don't know if that's the accurate one or the inaccurate one, but
Yeah, I mean, I think so. By law, they have to give you one per year, and
okay.
so I would just maybe just look into it a little bit more. If it's one per year, I think that sounds like the FICO, the real one.
I think it is FICO because I think I remember seeing that. But yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome advice. And of course, what about I don't want to talk about because if you're a business owner, you're hopefully making good purchases and not racking up credit cards and getting yourself into trouble. But on the other hand, there are some problems that can come into play when you are sort of maybe overconfident about your purchases. But maybe what you just said about keeping it under 30% might be the goal. Just make sure you're not making purchases higher than that, right? Or
Well, so the 30% only really applies to one sec, my video just cut out. The 30% only applies for when you want to apply for new cards. On the business side, though, it doesn't report the utilization. So you can actually use 100% utilization on the business card side. But well, I mean, one big thing people got to realize is when you invest money into your business, either you're using your own money or business credit. When you use your own money and you lose that money in business, it's gone forever. But if you use business credit, it actually gives you more options to recover. So basically, if you have $20,000 on the business side and your business falls short, you can't pay it back, you can just borrow, you can just apply for another card, business card, and then balance transfer the debt over to that card. So at least you get a longer period of 0%. So you can get up to 5 years of 0% through two strategic balance transfers. And then even if you can't pay the debt back, it goes to collections, and through a credit repair process, there's ways to remove the debt from your file for very little money. Of course, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to be good in business and pay the money back. But
yep.
if you look at the laws that protect consumers, there's pretty easy ways to get collections removed from your credit file. So that's like what you have in the back pocket. Obviously, that's worst case scenario, but it's better than using your own money. And then when your own money's gone, it's literally gone forever, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's good to have the business credit option when it's a little bit safer for your money.
Love it. Okay, so then how do we, I guess many of us sort of learn from other people and try to find coaches and stuff like that so that we can make the right decisions and have another eye looking at it. So do you have coaches or mentors or, how do you run that in your business?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I think the best way to get something done is to learn from someone who's already done it. So like if you're trying to learn a new skill, you're trying to get better at something specific, you should be working with someone that has literally done what you're trying to do before, right? So I think it's so important. If you work with a mentor, if you work with a coach that has done what you're trying to do, if you pay him some money, you're going to get there so much faster and save so much money by not making mistakes. And then also because you're going to get there faster, you can start making money faster, right? So if you can learn it yourself in 12 months, or you can pay someone to learn it in 1 month, that's 11 months of opportunity cost, right? I think that's the most important thing we have is time, right? If you can pay some money to save tons of time and the costly mistakes, I think it's a game changer. Try to find someone that's literally done what you're trying to do, learn exactly what they did, implement it. And there's coaches and mentors for everything nowadays. And I think when people think about, how to get business funding for their business, that's where I come in, because I've done so good in credit, and I've mastered the game. I know the bank rules. I have high level relationships with relationship managers at these top institutions. So if people are serious about getting business funding for their business, that's why they come to me, because they can do it in a very, very short period of time with no mistakes, because I've done what they're trying to do. And so that I'm the biggest believer in paying for knowledge. I've paid tens of thousands of dollars on my education outside of college, just through courses and coaches and mentors.
Yeah, and I mean, it just makes sense because I mean, if you're on this podcast, then chances are you're trying to start a business. You're trying to get people to trust you with your expertise. So, wouldn't it make sense for you to trust other people with their expertise, and we can all work together, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Just find the right person, find the right coach, find someone that you look up to that has a great story, very trustworthy, and, has, like I said, has done what you're trying to do, because that's the best way you're going to learn it.
Yeah. So maybe now would be a great time to give you your guest solo. So, tell me about your business and what you can offer.
Yeah. I mean, basically, my consulting company, I coach people on how to optimize their personal credit so they can get business credit, right? There's many things what good credit gets you, not only a low rate on an auto loan or a mortgage, but also approved for the top travel cards on the personal side. And with top travel cards, I get completely free travel when I travel, because I have so many credit card points, because I have the right cards, I spend them in the right ways, and I know how to redeem these points. And so that's just on the personal side with the travel stuff. And then once you have optimized personal credit, so much is possible on the business side. So I walk people through this entire process on how to optimize, telling them what cards to get, when to get them, and how to apply for them. And then I also have relationship managers at these top banks that I connect my clients with. So basically, when they do funding with these relationship managers, it's almost guaranteed success. I just tee them up and they just hit the ball right off the tee, get top cards approved with massive limits. So basically, I bring on people that are serious about their business, serious about getting business funding, so they can either start that business or scale a business, and the results are incredible. I have a free 10 video mini course that I'm giving out right now. For anyone that reaches out to me on my Instagram, just shoot me a DM, say close friends, and I'll add you to my close friends list, and then the access link is there. So my Instagram is King of Debt, at King of Debt on Instagram, and just DM me close friends. I have a really cool free mini course, 10 videos, talks about personal credit, business funding, some travel tips. I think you'll get some great value out of it. And then for anyone that's really trying to take their business and funding to the next level, feel free to reach out on my Instagram, King of Debt. I'd be happy to kind of, get you more informed about the program.
Perfect. So is there any homework that someone would want to do, other than actually creating their own LLC or whatever it is, before they contact you?
Yeah, I think creating an LLC, contact me and ask me any questions anytime. No prerequisites, but get the free course. I have awesome tangible things in that free course that kind of teach you about next steps that you can take action on today. But just in a nutshell, make sure you're applying for cards. Make sure you are opening bank accounts at institutions you want to create relationships with. If you want to research the top banks in your state or province or country, and realize or learn about what business cards do they have, and if they have good ones, you want to start building a relationship with that bank, right? So like in the US here, it's like Chase, US Bank, Bank of America. In Canada, I know they have Amex. So build relationships with these top lenders, and then once you have some age and some history with them, once you're ready for business funding, they're much more inclined to give you large amounts of money. And I think you're so much more powerful if you have the ability to borrow large amounts of money. Maybe you don't need it today, but maybe next month you have an awesome opportunity. You need $100,000 to pursue this, and the people that are prepared, that have the good credit, they can now take advantage of this opportunity. If you don't have the good credit, chances are you can't. So I think it's so important to prepare for opportunities.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I mean, they say the same thing about networking, right? It's better to build your network before you need it as opposed to trying
Yeah.
to go find people that you need to network with right when you need it. So
Yeah.
maybe that's just
Same.
another one.
Same concept. I think, with networking, it just goes with relationship building and trust, right? You're building your network, you're building relationships with people, and so these people can trust you. So when you need something from them and they need something from you, you already have the long-term relationship. So same concept with the banks, right? You want to have long as possible relationships with the banks, as many, transactions or accounts or whatever possible, because the more you have, the more trust they're going to give you. Like, obviously, Tim and I, the more we talk, the more we're going to trust each other. Right. So
Mhm.
same with the banks, build those relationships, and, they're more inclined to give you money if you do.
Love it. Yeah, that's really good advice. Yeah, start building that now. And you know what? The banks are totally willing to give you stuff too. They
Yeah.
don't.
They
They don't
want
hold
to,
back.
you just have to make yourself attractive to these banks. So, start the work, start building your credit, and you'll get a lot of money.
Right on. Well, this has been awesome, Jack. Thanks for rocking out with me today.
Of course, Tim. It's a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show. And thanks for everyone listening.
Yep. And so again, that's King of Debt at King of Debt
Yeah.
on Instagram. Is that the best way to get a hold of you?
At King of Debt on Instagram. And for anyone that wants that free course right now, I'm only giving it out for the next 1 month. So reach out, King of Debt on Instagram.
Awesome. Thanks again. And to the listeners, make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you again on the next episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.